done this particular lecture before. I've done TV shows on it, I've done radio shows on it, and podcasts on it, but I usually never get to talk for more than about 40 to 50 minutes or something like that. This is 2 hours, and this is the first where I have pulled it all together. But you have everything we need to understand how time travel can happen. I explained the quantum mechanics interface into the concept, and I must stay away from the equations because I'm not good at that. I lose myself in it, and chances are maybe 2 or 3 of you would lose yourself too, so we're going to stay away from that. But the concepts can be explained fairly simple, and I've tried to pick them apart somewhat and make it simple so simple-minded people like me can understand it. Anyway, I want us to think about something too. Why is it so important that we understand what time, timelines, parallel universes are, and how to be able to create timelines with the new and good stuff in it? That is why we need to understand it, because once you understand something, it is a lot easier to work with it and make good results. But I guess first, every good speech is supposed to start with a good joke, right? But I really don't have one for you. But I think, though, that everybody here who believes time travel is possible, I think we should get together and talk more about it. So I want you to meet me last Friday at 4:15 in the afternoon, because we're going to have a party. And it just wouldn't be the same without you. Okay, now you understand why Nori keep telling me my jokes aren't any good. So a lot of this is very technical. And I recommend very highly to go back and review the recording, because you will find things in that will make your mind go, maybe I can use some of this. This makes sense, how I actually can create the future and maybe skip part of it and go directly to it. Yes, there are ways to do that. And I will also say, grab yourself a piece of paper and a pen and write notes. And write, as I talk, you're going to find things that you wonder about. Write down your questions, because there's going to be plenty of time for questions. Maybe even in an hour or 2 hours or afterward. The third hour is just great for questions, because then we're going to have it all, laid out there so you know what to ask. Because right now it's kind of, you don't even maybe know what to ask. So here goes. That there is a problem in our society, and that is that the majority of people has been brainwashed into believing that what the government, science institutions, and the people in so-called authorities are saying is the truth. So people will believe that when the government and the science people says that there is no time travel, there is no time travel. It's impossible. And most people believe that. And I'm good with that, because we will leave them behind. They will grow at their own rate, and maybe someday they will come and knock on our door again, so we could open that door and invite them in. But for this science part of it, many people are not ready for it. our mind-created existence here is moving forward. We have to leave them behind and don't want to associate with that kind of limited thinking, because that will hold us back. I have my own experiences when it comes to time travel, and we're going to talk about that very extensively. Yeah. And YouTube and the world is full of stories from people who have found themselves in strange environments where things are different than it used to be. And people maybe were dressed like they were 50 years ago, 100 years ago, and then suddenly found themselves back in present days again. And they wonder, what happened? And they really can't figure out what happened. It could be major events. It just could be small incidents, something like, let's say you're coming home, your arms are full of grocery bags. You're walking through the hallway into the kitchen and you see a new painting on the wall and you're thinking, wow, we got a new painting. You get in the kitchen, put the groceries away, and then you ask your spouse, where did you get the new painting from? And all you get back is a blank stare. What painting? The one in the hallways. So you walk into the hallway and the old painting is there on the wall again. But you know you saw a different painting on the wall when you walked in. It was there and you saw it. So what happened? We have been brainwashed into thinking that what the authorities are telling us is the truth. If they say there's no time travel, there ain't no time travel. And of course, you can imagine what it would be like if time travel was possible for most people. Think of that. What in the world would it be like? Let's say that you today are working on a project and you, for practical purposes, let's say you get in the time machine and you go forward 2 years and you talk to yourself and you ask yourself, how would that project work out? What should I have done maybe to make it become successful? Or if you go forward 2 years and find out it wasn't successful, then you come back and quit it. Or you go back and give yourself advice about what to do to become successful at something. What would it be like if these things were possible? Think about that. All we have to do is to look around us and listen to the experiences of the thousands of people that is having these kinds of experiences. Just a concept that is really close to me is that my co-host on Broadcast Team Alpha, Nori Love, she's a hypnotherapist and she takes people forward in time under hypnosis, have them meet themselves. I've seen that happen. And then we have Mr. Andrew Carlstein. He was a stock trader. In 2003, Andrew Carlstein started with $800 only. In a few weeks, he made $350 million in the stock market. He did 126 high-risk trades and never lost money on one of them. Now, the regulators, they saw this and they started looking at it and said, no, that can't happen. So that's too unusual. They came and arrested him for insiders trading. Well, how could that happen? How could he do that? He was hauled into court and he told the judge, well, I am a time traveler from the year 2256. And he had read the records and came back in time to play the game. He told the judge, I'm sorry, I got carried away and, playing the market here, and it got a little too far. Of course, the judge didn't believe him, and he locked him up, threw him in jail. And he put a $1 million bail on him. But then they started investigating him, and they found that Andrew Carlstein did not exist, did not show up anywhere in the official records. No birth record, no licenses, no fingerprints, no records anywhere. In a couple of days, a guy came, and he came with cash and bailed him out, and they left, and they were never seen again. You can read about him in a very credible newspaper, and there were several newspapers that wrote about it. One of them is Weekly World News, March 19, 2003. Also, there's court records. Explain what he have said in the courtroom. And you can Google him. Andrew Carlstein, time travel. Google that and you will get an eyeful. This is very well documented. And just do it. You need to see this. If you are listening to this, chances are you may have your own incidents and your own story. In order to understand what all that is, we really should understand what time is. And is it even real? There are credible physicists coming out saying that there is no real evidence that time even exists. It only shows up in the equation as an effect of an artificially created mind construct for the purpose of understanding our mind-created universe. Our universal mind and our subconscious mind has a way to construct it so it makes sense to our analytical conscious understanding by the five senses. And this needs to observe the present moment in linear form. Because our conscious mind thinks a lot slower than the universal mind. And also it is not able to think on more than one thing at a time. So if you have all of everything within the same concept, you couldn't understand it. And also, yes, time slippage, where you could move between two different timelines. Straight time travel is real as part of the mind-created construct. Later in the presentation, I will show you two different pictures that should really remove all doubt that this is possible. And I took those two pictures. Let's look at the two different things. One of them is, what is the universe? And the other one is, what is time? First, the universe appears to be a self-aware, mind-created holographic projection of our mind observing it. How do we know that? Well, if we listen to Professor John Wheeler at Princeton University, he was one of the first to step out of the box and challenge the narrative about these things. He is quoted saying, "We would not even imagine a universe that did not contain observers like us. because we couldn't. Because the very building blocks of the universe are the acts of us observing the universe. Let's dwell on that. Let me back engineer that sentence. If we are not observing the universe, there are no building blocks of the universe. Without the building blocks of the universe, there is no universe. And now there are large numbers of scientists coming out also saying that if we are not observing or interacting somehow with something within this universe, it may not even exist. Some are even going as far as saying that the planets, the solar system, the galaxies out there may not even exist until we are putting binoculars on it or a telescope looking at it. This totally supports the mind-created universe. And there are repeatable scientific experiments proving that is the way it is. So what we accept, believe, and allow to dwell in our mind the most is what we will have in our existence. None of us, absolutely none of us, really understand how powerful our mind is. One more little thing about this universe is now we know a little bit about what the universe is, but what is it made of? Here's a clue. There's a physicist. His name is James Gates. He has studied the universe basically all his life, and he says that when we go deep in the equations explaining the fabric of space, we find computer code, ones and zeros, and we did not put it there. It is too organized to be there by accident. An intelligence put it there so the universe could function and be explainable. If there is computer code in there, that means there is a computer program. If there is a computer program explaining the fabric of space, and we are in this fabric of space, that means we are part of this computer program. I know you know what's coming next. We are in a computer simulation. That is the easiest way I know how to explain that we are in a computer simulation. And this computer simulation has many similarities with a holographic structure. We are finding that there are more than one universe and more than one dimension. The universe can hold many different dimensions within one universe. Dimensions are separated by vibrations of thought only. Remember the mind-created universe? So we created by thought and mental images and energy. That's what the mind creates. Visual images, energy, planned action, and creations, all created by thought. Most reasonable thinking people can accept more than one dimension because You probably get a little bit of an idea when you know that there are shadow people out there at the periphery of your field of vision. You can see things moving. You can see dark shadows. There's something there. We also have ghosts. The evidence of spiritual aberrations is undeniable. We have the voice recordings, we have the pictures, the videos, and the physical evidence, like ectoplasm, that suddenly shows up and has been analyzed, and they don't know what it is. It cannot be analyzed. And then scratches on people that show up out of nowhere. There is something doing these things. And within quantum mechanics, we have the theory of inflation, which takes potentiality and create physical reality from it. With other words, we think things into physical existence. Some people say that the equations show there may be as much as 10 to the 500th power of universes out there. Or in there, if you consider that everything is created in our mind. And we may be in more than one of them. These universes may all look different. Some of them may have only 2 dimensions to it. 2 dimensions. That's just length and width and no height. It has no volume. It is only conceptual 2 distances. But it could be a universe. And then we have 3-dimensional universe. That is one where you have length, width, and height. You got a box. Everything is rigid. Nothing moves in that box until you add the 4th dimension to it, which is time. Now you can put something in the box and you move it around because it takes time to move it from one position to the 2nd position in that box. And then we have the 5th dimension, which everybody is wondering about, because everybody and their dog out there is saying, that's where we're going, up to the 5th dimension. Well, yeah, kind of. But there's more on that one, because here's a mind bender. We find that accepted science show photons and electrons and other atomic and subatomic particles can be in 2 places at the same time. I am and you are made from those particles. In a mind-created universe, we can direct those particles and everything those particles make up to do things that cannot be explained by Newtonian physics. With other words, we could be in 2 places at the same time, or 2 timelines at the same time, and possibly even 2 universes. Boy, here's your brain gets itchy again. On top of that, the quantum mechanics equations on the superposition dictate that everything we have ever thought of, doing, having done, wished for, or wanted to create is created and placed into the soup of creation as potential for created physical reality. It is there. We can interact with it. And we have given, just by thinking about it, we have given it a low form of life. And we can draw on that and pull it back into the physical. That is where the theory of inflation comes in, because that means that potentiality can be moved into the physical and become physical reality. We can take potentials for creation and create tangible physical things from it. Everything we think of is placed in the field as potentiality. So now we know it's there. We know it is accessible to us. This can be used for many different things. I know there's a lot of background information here, but I'm building a foundation to where you can build a house of understanding on it later. And that time travel is possible. Just diving directly into time travel and say, yes, take my word for it, it's possible. That's okay. Maybe some of you would, but I know most of you would have a little problems with some of it, because this is what is the foundation of it. So write down your questions you may be running into here. You're probably getting closer to the idea that our mind has no limitations. Science knows that nothing is physically real, but a holographic projection from the self-aware and intelligent universal mind, or the quantum field, or the field, the unified field, or as in religious term called God. Using your mind as the physical projector, it's what's happening. If it is all mind created, allow the mind to lead and help you create. Accept it, believe it, and ask it to do work for you. I've done that, and it works. Science confirms time travel is real. I have read in 3 or 4 different science journals where very competent scientists are saying, we know how to make a time machine, but we do not have the power to fuel it yet. Michio Kaku says, yeah, we know how to make a time machine, but we need the power and the energy of a sun to fuel it. And here's one of those major publications interviewing scientists saying, yes, we can make a time machine. Go to bbc.com/news/July 18, no, correction, July 11, 2018. The title of that article is "We Can Build a Real Time Machine," talking to scientists. And there's another one. Go to npr.org/2020/09/27/ and there's a large, I'm going to do this, 9/4/time-travel-is-theoretically-possible-researchers-say. I know it's hard to do without actually showing it. If you go in under science, in science journals, and search for the term time travel, you'll find a bunch of stuff out there. They're saying it is possible, even without the paradoxes. Well, there's one thing they forget. They should use the most powerful instrument in the universe, in our physical universe, to fuel it. That's the real power of the mind. Mainstream science ignores that we live in a mind-created universe, even though they know it. Let's talk about those paradoxes a little bit, because it's kind of like a hair in the soup, you know? You know it's not going to hurt you, but you really don't like to look at it. You want to remove it. But there are many of those paradoxes. And the grandfather paradox is well known. If you went back in time and accidentally killed your grandfather before you've had some fun with your grandma, one of your parents would not be born. Guess what? You could not be born. So you could not go back and kill your grandfather. And that way he would have some fun with grandma. So your parents would be born and you would be born. So you could go back and kill your grandfather again. This is called a Mobius loop. There is no answer to this one, except one. And I'll explain that in a little bit. This paradox, scientists are having such a problem with this paradox that, yeah, you can kill your grandfather, but you see where this is going? It makes your brain itch again, doesn't it? So what actually happens? You're here. Logic said that you did not kill your grandfather. But if you did, what would happen since you're here? All logic says you would not be here if you went back. So you didn't do it. But this right here and what is going on next is very important to understand where it comes to time travel and what happened. You are here whether you killed your grandfather or not. You are energy. You are electric, mental, and spiritual energy. Energy does not go away. So here is what most likely would happen. You go back and you accidentally kill your grandfather. At that moment, you start a new timeline that go in a different direction than this one, because the energy in this one cannot go away. So when you kill your grandfather, you start a new timeline of one where you do not exist. But you would continue to exist in this one. Now, quantum mechanics has two schools of thought on this one. And some say that when you create a new timeline, the field with the old one collapses because your mind is no longer there to fuel it. I think different. And I'm not the only one to do so. Because you created energy in this timeline, it cannot go away. It will remain in the field, and it will remain here with you. So, and there are other physicists that is starting to say that now too, because they see development, even on the blackboard, they see developments in both timelines. Science knows that nothing is physically real, but a holographic projection from the self-aware and intelligent universal mind or the field. If it is all mind created, allow the mind to lead and help you create. I've done that, and I have very powerful an electronic device that I've had some very strange experiences with, and I'm going to show you in a little bit. But nothing worked for me when I started using this device before I started to manipulate my brainwave pattern. In a meditative state, I lowered the brainwave pattern down to about the bottom of the alpha range. I was aiming for 7.4 because there is something magical about that number in brainwave patterns. I understand that better now, and you should go to www.broadcastteamalpha.com and scroll down to the last page of the shows. I think it's page 13, and watch my TV show where I interview the man that made the time travel device. That was Stephen Gibbs, and the show is called Hidden Truths with Aage Nost Time Travel. That's the show you're looking for. It's a very interesting TV interview I did with that guy, and it explains a lot. It's going to be able to supplement what I'm going to show you here in just a little bit. On that show, I demonstrate the machine so you can see what it looks like and how it would work. And it gets very interesting. In fact, BBC television found out about this TV show and my experiences, and they called. They were coming to the United States to do a TV documentary on time travel with Michio Kaku and Green and another theoretical physicist that was unknown to me at the time, and they wanted me on it. So I agreed, and we went to New Orleans and we did the shoot. I demonstrated the device on that TV documentary also. That TV documentary was actually shown to about 1 billion people around the world in 2003. And you can probably find it if you go to BBC Television's website and maybe search under time travel. I'm sure it's still there. They don't lose things. Now, not everything I talked about in that TV documentary with BBC television actually happened. And I did not understand that for a very long time. Why did what I saw not happen? Why did we not have an 80% collapse of the stock market, economic collapse, on the brink of civil war, where the people got so fed up with the government that they started shooting politicians? So the military had to step in and basically shut the country down and create order. Luckily, none of that happened in my life, in my timeline. That kind of violence does not solve problems. Now I understand why it did not happen. It was because of a shift in timeline for me. When I changed my focus in life. Remember, In our mind-created universe, what we allow to dwell in our mind is the most is what we're going to have in our life. And back then, from 1999 and on forward, these years I was doing the TV shows in Tucson for 6 years. I was all about uncovering and exposing the government corruption and the illegal activity within government. We were one of the early ones to uncover that 9/11 was an inside job. The government themselves did it. CIA, Mossad, old man Bush and his family, they were all at the middle of this. We exposed it. And because of that, what I had in my mind and what was on my mind the most, I created that timeline. And if I had continued on that path, most likely what I have seen and talked about on the BBC television documentary, it would have happened. But I changed my focus of my life. And because of that change of focus, I created new things because I started to visualize new things to happen. Now, right after I quit the TV shows, I created a new timeline for myself and a spiritual one. And I'm sure glad I did, because all that negative stuff probably would have happened. I've had some peaks at different timelines later, and it appears as things like that actually did happen. One timeline coming out of 2016 is that Hillary won the presidency, and we all went through World War III, a nuclear war. Hillary started that, and it didn't go very well. Let me talk just a little more about time. I've heard some scientists coming out and saying that there's no measurable evidence, not even in the equations, that time actually exists. So then what is it? Why do we think we know what time is? We remember yesterday, and you're sitting here right now looking at me, and you have hopes and of aspirations for good things to happen for tomorrow. That kind of thing appears to be a timeline from the present, from the past through the present, going into the future, doesn't it? That's what we understand as a timeline. It appears to us that it is perfectly real. But what if everything that happens and are ever thought of is sitting outside of the physical in the unified field as potentials for creation? I keep repeating some of these things, but it's because I want to drive it home. And all we have to do is reach into the unified field, latch onto it, and bring it back into here. That includes things that we have imagined in the future, or different things we imagine in the past. For us to be able to see it and enjoy it in linear time, the mind has to construct it so we can understand it. The mind then grabs a hold of an occurrence, formats it, stretches it out into linear format, so our brain is able to comprehend and understand it as a beginning, a present, and an anticipated future. A mind-created holographic construct is not the real thing. Earth scientists has been working on holograms since the early 1960s. In 1982, the American military created a hologram of Virgin Mary over the Havana harbor in Cuba, hoping that the Cubans would see that as a religious sign that they should rise up against the corrupt communist government and overthrow them. Well, we know how that went. Cubans did nothing. What else do you think they can create with holograms now, after 60 years of research? Oh yeah. There is a government operational program that I have known about since the mid-1990s. It's called Operation Blue Beam. That is the one that will bring in the fake alien invasion with thousands of UFOs in the sky. And the government come out and say, we are being invaded by an alien race. We better band together under one government so we can fight them. That program has been around quite a while. Werner von Braun, the head of NASA, he talked about it right after he retired. Now, this is a holographic program that is possible here after 60, 70 years of research. The universe has 14.7 billion years to perfect itself. So then do you think that actually could be a little more perfect than ours could be? We could be in that particular program that is created by the universal consciousness or the universal mind, and your mind working in unison as one, creating what we see. When I had a universal download and the universe was explained to me, I saw the time slowed down so it could actually be understood, and I could see the individual different frames of present moments stacked one after another. I could see the pictures of those frames going away, coming back, going away, coming back, going away, coming back. Your mind, well, let's see. Your mind is creating a perception of this through the five senses. And that's only the projector of what the universal timeline is created from. This perception consists of a succession of present moments placed one after another one in linear form as pictures. And that is as a 4D perception of pictures all around me. These pictures were stacked in a row. So when positive thinking gurus are saying that, stay in the present moment, they're right. It is only the present moment that exists. There is no other choice. Though those present moments may have been in the past or the future, but they are present moments. Because the linear progression of physical time is a succession of frames of present moments as a 4D picture, placed one after another. It goes through it so fast that it appears as one continuous movie. And between each picture of present moment, there is nothing. The field creates the present moment, and allow you to project it and experience it. And the pictures are moving really fast. It all looks like one continuous time. And you're the star actor in that movie. In between each frame of present moment, the field collapses to nothing. And then move over a little bit, recreates itself and collapses, recreates itself to a present moment and collapses. This is what it looked like. Now, there is a similar system in electronics. It is called a square wave generator, like the one in the Royal Rife frequency generator, you know, the one that Royal Rife created back in the early 1930s, 40s, 50s. The one you can tune to a specific frequency. So it's called a mortal oscillatory rate, which kills all bacteria and virus. In other words, he had 40 people that was terminally ill with cancer, and he cured every one of them except for 2 because they quit the program and they died. That's a different story. So the sine wave between the square wave generator and the time is the same. The square wave generator peaks in the sine wave, move over a little bit and collapses to nothing, move over a little bit, recreates itself, move over and collapses. Just as time does it with the present moment. And I have no idea what the frequency of time is. And then, oh gosh, I see we have been here for an hour, and I guess I'm about halfway through. What do you think, Neil? Should we maybe take a 3-minute break and maybe do some questions and answers? Or what do you think the people in the audience wants to do? Do they want to go and get another cup of coffee just like me, or what do you
Let's
think?
see. Well, okay. Well, you can go get a cup of coffee and then we could take a couple questions. How about that?
Yeah, then I'll be back in 3 minutes. How about that?
All right, sounds good, brother. See you in a
Okay,
few minutes.
just keep it running.
And I did see a couple questions come in, everyone. So while Aage goes away, I'm going to go through here and look at your questions. So if you have any more questions at this point, go ahead and post them and we'll get them answered in a few minutes. See that we have a question here from Don, so I'll pull this out. All right, right now we just have one question. So again, if you have any questions, go ahead. And if not, that's fine too. You can ask them at any point. You can put them in the chat, in the Q&A, and then Aage can also take a look at them afterwards. All right, we got 2 questions in. Don, I see yours here, and I love that question. You know, just while we're waiting for Aage, have you guys seen the movie The One? that movie? Because what you said, Don, can we pull our physicality out of this timeline into another and have all of our existences into the other? That's kind of like what happened in that movie, right? How he was going around taking himself out, like physically, of all these other realities to pull in the energy and to be as powerful as all those multiple dimensions and realities in one. I love that movie. All right, Aage, you ready for this?
All right, here we are.
Okay, so we have a question here from Don. Can we pull all of our physicality out of this timeline and into another and have all of our existences into one?
Well, different timelines usually have small variances and some have big variances in it. And that is one thing I'm going to cover in a little bit, because if you go through what I'm going to explain to you, so you switch timeline, you may bring a whole bunch of the stuff with you because it's the same over there. Or you can create a new timeline where everything will be the way you imagine it from then on. So there are two different ways you could be in a different timeline. And another thing is that when you move into another timeline, if you move there, you may not be able to remember what you had in the old one. You come there with amnesia. I got two pictures that shows actually different, because the two pictures are from the two different timeline as well as time travel into the past. So it gets really complicated in there, but a part of your question, I'm going to explain it a little bit.
And just to ask something else based on that, I've heard stories before about other planetary systems where beings they exited one planetary system or star system, Orion or whatever, and then they incarnated into Earth. So is that technically another timeline, especially because we have a specific unique time construct on Earth? Because I know I've heard stories about beings that basically left one reality in like Orion, and they thought they were going to remember everything on Earth, but they actually lost their memories. So is that kind of the same thing as time travel, or are we specifically talking about parallel realities?
That may be more parallel. I didn't quite understand the question, because coming from another world into this one, it also, when you move through space is not constant in vibration. So let's say if we went to the Pleiades right now, we may come there at a vibration where we see nothing. But there are other entities that are at a different vibration that comes here and are able to adjust their vibration so we can see them here. So it gets complicated.
Very complicated, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a comment here, and maybe you can add a comment to this. Timothy is saying people use time jumping for healing, and it seems to work very well. It's just getting your mind to accept the scenario. So any comments on that?
Well, yeah, that's a concept that is real, and I have not studied that very much, but especially if you go back to a healthy time and embed yourself in it, claim it as yours, and then bring it in here. So, or you could go into the future when you have cured it, whatever it was, but then you still have to cure it. So that type of technology is not my specialty, but I can see a little bit of the concept in it if you go backwards to a time before you got your challenges, and then you bring that with you back into here. That's my impression of it. I may be a little bit out in the field on that one, but.
We have one more question here from James. Two more questions. James is asking, please explain the difference between brain and mind.
Okay. Brain is all physical. The brain is the computer, the hardware computer The mind is your computer program that makes the computer do what it does. Because the mind is not just in the computer, the mind is everywhere. It is the universal mind, and you are part of that universal mind. And if we understand how the brain and the mind works, then we can access what is in the universal mind a lot easier and bring it in here, understand it, and be able to use it to our advantage.
Vivek is asking, what is quantum jumping? Is that a form of time travel?
I haven't studied that very much either, but quantum jumping is done by the mind, where it takes the body with it. Because when we understand that the body is only an expression of the mind, then the mind can take it with it and go somewhere. That is why Nori and I interviewed Father Tiso. He's a Catholic priest that the Catholic Church sent to India to follow up on some rumors that there are people that is actually ascending over there. They just poof, go. He went there, and yeah, he found out it was true. He's got a website where he shows pictures of. It gets complicated, but they take their body with them when they ascend. That may be in a different way related to quantum jumping. Only these people over in India, they die and they go. But maybe there is a way that we can also quantum jump to a different location as well as at a different timeline, possibly. This one's, I need to look into that. Thank you for asking. This is really good. I really should look at teleportation is the next one. Yeah, that is teleportation is, there is actually videos on YouTube of children. A couple of years ago, I saw this. They had two milk glasses upside down. They were empty, upside down. They had a bug in one, under one glass. Kids were sitting there and they moved the bug from one glass to under the other glass on camera. And I saw it on YouTube, and it might still be there. If you go and maybe search for teleportation, kids, teleportation, or something like that, you might find it. So I've seen it. There were two Chinese kids. Well, I shouldn't say that. They were Oriental. They may have been, I'm not sure. They do a lot of research on these mind techniques in China and Russia, and they talk about it. Only here, nobody talks about it in the US.
I think that there are no more questions for now. Aage, you want to keep going?
Now, let's go on, and then we'll save the rest of the questions till later. And let's see. I looked for definitions on timelines, and I found a few, but they were a little complicated, so I kind of simplified it a little bit. And a timeline is what I'm considering is a projected movement in linear time from the past through the present and on into the future. That made it simple enough so at least I could understand it. Whatever happens along this path is entirely created and controlled by you. That does not mean that you are the only one creating in that timeline. Others and other things may be in there creating with you. But somewhere in your mental fabric or spiritual fabric, you agreed to allow it to happen. You may have agreed to some of it that happens even before you were born. and it was then coded into your life program. It came here with you, and you were living it. And between you and the outsiders, the outside helpers, your life program is carried out. So you're not the only one working on your life path. Plus or minus, you can renegotiate the contract. Maybe that's another show. And we're saying that, oh no, all that bad stuff that happened to me, I sure didn't do that. I sure did not plan that. They did it to me. The government did it to me. Thieving lawyers did it to me. And oh yeah, the bank did it to me. Maybe there's some rethinking in order here, because there is one person that always was there when it happened. Us. Let me talk about how to start a new timeline if we don't like what we have in this one. Even slip back and forth between two timelines, or go back and correct the past. Remember, you're supposed to meet me last Friday? Yeah, we could technically do that. But there is repeatable scientific experiments proving we can actually correct the past. Yeah, that all can be done. And I'll explain in a minute. There are several ways to switch timelines. There are some simple ways to do it and more involved ones. I have changed timelines several times. And one way to do it, which is extremely simple. I didn't say easy because there are some decisions involved. I was born on a farm in Norway. All traditions over there told me that, hey boy, you're going to be a farmer. I was groomed for it. I became an agronomist by education and ran the farm. But I knew that was not what I wanted to do the rest of my life. So I broke with all that tradition. And I did something very important. I burned my bridge. I sold the farm and left the country. There was nothing to go back to. There was nothing back there for me, except going back and drive taxi cabs. Wasn't going to do that. I came here to the United States to become a professional pilot. And that was my first new timeline change. According to quantum mechanics, it is also likely that the old timeline continued with me in it, even back there. The reason I'm thinking it is so is because I've had glimpses of it. I still wonder though, how that guy is doing. The glimpses that I've had from that timeline in my life, as maybe it would have been back there, was a hard life. The chances I did a better choice, even that was extremely hard over here. But I guess I've never been lazy, so it worked. And then I changed timeline again. I was flying in the aviation business for 23 years. And I broke with that timeline as a pilot and quit flying and started researching the mind and doing other things. That was another timeline break. And now I'm getting ready to do another one. And this is an easy way to change timelines. Though it makes, you have to do some major life decisions different than what you already have. That's not easy, but it is simple. But also, there's another way to change timelines. and erase all memory and of the effects of this one. Remember, quantum mechanics has proven that we live in a mind-created universe. I keep saying that, and I'm sure you get it by now. So invite your mind in on the game and let it create for you. What that means is that in practical terms for us is that we, if we totally believe and wrap our minds around the concept of something we want, with a spiritual language involved, that is emotion, feelings of it, intention, vivid, colorful images, and love. When we do that, we start drawing whatever we concentrate on to us from the field, because we already put it there. We thought of it. We wanted it. It's there. So now we draw it back. It's formatted out there and we draw it back. The unified field, where everything is just sitting there as potentials. Remember that term? Potentials for physical creation. So we bring it back and we create. Whether we placed it in the field or someone else placed it in the field is actually kind of irrelevant, because we are attracting and attaching the vibration of the concept in the field that we want to draw back to us, and to create a tangible object or situation. We are looking for the final result. If it has been thought of by you or other people, if it's imagined or visualized, you have given it a low form of life, place it in the field, and it is there waiting for you. So it's ready for you to bring it back into the physical, in the present or in the past, or possibly in the future. Now, what we are here, now, what if there are things in your life that you don't like? So then I indicated that we can go back and change the past. There are scientific experiments showing we can. Let me tell you about that one experiment, and then I'll show you how to change the past. There's a German scientist. His name is Helmut Schmidt. How much more German can you get than that? He did a lot of research into the relationship of the result of an experiment and the observation or non-observation of someone involved in the experiment. He found that the mind of the observer can greatly influence the outcome of an experiment. In fact, he found the mind can even affect and alter an event that has already happened in the past. That's a scientific experiment showing it's possible. And here's the proof. He used a random number generator and hooked it up to an audio device with which could create and deliver a recorded click in the right ear and left ear of a headphone. In several sittings, he made a number of recordings of the random distribution of clicks to the right and the left earpiece. They were recorded in 2 different places. No one was allowed to observe the results, not even himself. Under normal circumstances, random distribution means that it would be about 50-50. 49-51, on another rare case, 48-52. The next day, he gave the recordings to a volunteer and told the volunteer to think and intend of many more clicks to occur on one side than the other side. Then Dr. Schmidt, he tallied up the clicks on the left and the right side of the tapes that were not influenced by the volunteer. And he found those tapes to be about 50-50, whatever he looked at was 50-50. Then he tallied up the clicks of the tapes no one had observed or heard. And those clicks, they were influenced by the volunteer to have a lot more clicks on one side than the other side. And he found that the volunteer had altered the clicks on those that was done 2 days earlier. They were no longer 50-50. They were as much as 10 to 15 clicks more on one side than the other side. The chances of this happening by chance is astronomical, especially when he repeated the experiment several times with the same result. The greater differences in clicks were only obtained in the recordings that were not observed. Now, what does that tell us? The volunteer went back and altered a recording that was done 2 days earlier and was not observed. The volunteer altered the physicality of the recordings in the past, as long as they were not observed. So this proves the past can be altered. Now, if you manage, let's say you imagine yourself creating within your field. Let's say you imagine yourself having a kitten, or imagine yourself having a new life in a different timeline. It is equally possible for the universe to help you do both. By engaging the power of the unified field, we can both travel in time backwards and forwards, and also move within different timelines back and forth and sideways between timelines. Now, let me tell you how you can create a brand new timeline where everything in the old one goes away, or you are no longer aware of it. Let's say you have a life situation right now that sucks. You don't like it at all. And it was caused by a stupid decision you did, let's say, a while back. Let's say that could be that you didn't go to college, or you did not marry a certain person. You sit down and analyze the situation, find out what your perception of the wrong decision was for you, and what you feel would have been a better decision. So let's say this stupid decision that you did was 6 years ago, and you know exactly the moment that you made that bad decision, and you're living with the results ever since. Now go back into meditation. In your mind, go back to a time about 6 months before that bad decision. Visualize your situation back then, 6.5 years ago. Spend a little time on visualizing different occasions of what you actually did back then, and carry that through. See, kind of create a little life string of things up to the point where you made that bad decision. Think yourself through this and get to the day of the bad decision. At that time you made that bad decision, visualize yourself making a totally different decision, a much better one. That will start your new timeline. And then start visualizing a different life path as a result of this new decision, with wonderful things in it. Just dig out the paintbrush on this one, put whatever good stuff you want into that timeline. Put all the good things that you can imagine in there. See yourself in it, around it, with it. Have the people you want in your life there with you. Fill it with emotion, good feelings, gratitude for having a wonderful life. Fill it with intention. Know that is exactly what's going to happen. And love it. Build your imagined life the way you want it in your life. Build it in your mind first. This is how extremely successful people build their life. Broken, miserable people, they never do these kinds of things because they do not spend a lot of their time in the areas of the environment that these kind of success principles and information show up. They're more busy with the football game, you know, and CNN News and the Rotary Club. And of course, their problems, you know, they spend a lot of time on their problems. But once you start recreating your life in your mind down a new path like this, the pictures in your mind are there guiding you in that new timeline. Very likely you may find yourself going down that timeline when you accept that this is what it's going to be. But you gotta quit thinking about the other one. Stay with the visualized images of the new one. And I know you have to live your life in this one until you can go on in that one, but spend some time with it. And this should be done often. Spend a lot of time with it. Build it, put details on it, create it. You can import people from this timeline over into the new timeline, like good people. And we know there are other timelines next to ours. They can be created new ones, or they can be old ones that is coming where we're already in it. How many times have you felt that things are out of place? It's because maybe you had a look at one of those other timelines. I heard a lady that was on vacation in Europe. She walked into a store for the very first time, and the clerk, he recognized her for having been there the day before. But she was not there the day before. She tried to go to the store, but she got there too late, so the store was closed. Things like that really happens. And again, your brain starts itching when you hear these things. In fact, now here's a really wild story. I spent Thanksgiving with a lady here in Tucson, me and some friends, and she had some really strange experiences. She had a friend from out of town that came to visit every so often, and when that friend came, strange things happened. Seems to follow the friend. Furniture was rearranged while there was nobody at home. And later on, they came back to being normal again. And one time in her own house, she opened the door to one of the upstairs bedrooms and saw there was a party going on in there. Folks in tuxedos, kind of like an upscale party. She got scared and slammed the door shut and left. And a little bit later, she went and looked in there again, and then the room was empty in her own house. When these things happen, most of us, we really go to wake, we just, no, I just didn't understand that right, or I forgot. They try to explain it away. It is obvious there is other realities next to ours, and we can participate in it. And here's a little bit of evidence too. The Chinese government has made time travel illegal. Even talking about it is illegal. Why? Maybe because there is a tunnel in the, I don't speak Chinese, so I'm going to give it a shot. Guizhou province in China. I'm going to spell that one so you can research it. Guizhou province in China, where thousands of people driving through this tunnel, there's a time dilation of about 1 hour. They gain an hour going through the tunnel. And mobile phones and watches are gaining an hour. Now, the government explanation is that, oh, there are cell towers, but they are giving you because you're driving through the tunnel, you get the wrong signal. Okay. But there's a problem. People with mechanical clocks, they gain the hour too. It has no electronic component in it. Like this one, not even a battery in it. It gains the time too. There was a Chinese journalist. Here we go again. His name. He was working for Guiyang Evening News. Boy, that sounded Chinese, didn't it? He did an experiment and drove through the tunnel 8 times. He gained 8 hours. This is becoming a tourist attraction over there. People want to drive through the tunnel and see this for themselves. It's become very high profile. People talk about it, but not too much, I suppose, since it is illegal. But it is there. And I know this is a lot of background. So let's have a little meat, huh? Let me talk about the time travel device too. The device that I have is not a toy. It's the same one that Art Bell, and we know who he was, having coast to coast AM radio show where he had millions of listeners. He got one of those machines, and I heard him say on the air one time that I'm sitting here looking at it, but I haven't dared to turn it on yet. So he maybe didn't. But it is the same one I also demonstrated for BBC television in their TV documentary that was shown to about 1 billion people globally. I said, it's not a toy, because there are people who have used it and they are missing. Let me tell you one story that was told to me by the builder of the device, Stephen Gibbs. And he said, I really don't talk a lot about this, he said, because it scares people. Well, yeah, it should. If you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be messing with it. He told me there was a young man going to college and living at home with his parents. And he bought a time travel device from Stephen Gibbs. And then he got it. And the earlier part of the day, he went up to his bedroom and obviously was, experimenting with it. Kind of looked like. The parents did not see him the rest of the day. So his mom came upstairs in the evening to invite him down for dinner. When she walked into his bedroom, he was not there. They did not really worry too much because that happened before. He went out. So, but the next day they found out that he wasn't at school either. And they waited a little bit, but they filed a missing persons report, and the police came out and started looking his bedroom over. They found a manual on time travel laying on the bed. They found the time coil, the electromagnet, and the black box sitting in the middle of the bed, and it was plugged in the wall. See, when a person is missing, the police's job is to be really suspicious. So they started looking at the parents. Did you kill him and hide him, or what happened here? Police get squirrely when stuff like that happens. But they did get over that. But the kid, he never showed up anywhere after that or later. The question is, where did he go? Actually, that's half of the question. The other half is, what situation did he find himself in at the other end when he showed up somewhere? He left the device behind. So he could not use that to come back. You see, normally there is a safety valve in the universe. You will usually be brought back to the place where you have the most thought, energy, and intention and present awareness. That's the safety valve. And that works on many different levels. That even works for astral travel. You can go throughout the universe somewhere, but you will always find yourself back. All you have to do is to think yourself back and snap, you're back. And I don't think he understood the mind well enough to be able to think himself back. Stephen Gibbs told me that there were several stories like this by people who got displaced by distance, so they had to actually go and travel to get back home again. But they got displaced to a place where they knew somebody or were emotionally attached to someone. And that drew them to that other place. And because intention has a big role in this. So now here is something that I know everybody would want to probably ask later on. What have I seen in the future? First of all, I am not worried about the future whatsoever. It's going to be good in my timeline. And as an insurance is that you're sitting here looking at me, so chances are you're in my timeline. So let's keep it that way, huh? Unless you go out and make major decisions to go off in a different direction, you could depart from this one. But as long as you stay on a spiritual path, I think we probably will be somewhat on the same kind of vibration. So we'll go, be in the same timeline. But I also want to remind you of something that I said before. Whatever you allow to dwell in your mind the most is what you're going to have in your life. When you think of something, you give it a low form of life. You place it into the field as potentials for creation, and you give it energy. And that's why Nori, Love, and I, we have created a mastermind of phenomenally powerful people or minds. Every Sunday we get together at 2 o'clock East Coast time, and we imagine the future. A lot of the stuff that we have imagined is happening. I know we're bending the laws of physics sometimes. We created howling rain out of basically clear sky. Actually, that's not totally true. There were a few clouds, but in a matter of an hour, it thickened up and darkened and turned into howling rain, and that should not have happened. But we created that to put out some of the forest fires in Northern California about 3 months ago. It worked. That is what happens when you put the mind to work. So if we give it energy, we give it life. And that's potential for physical creation. Therefore, I will not talk much about some of the negative stuff. And there is some things. There is some. But we will come through. On the other end, there is good things on the other side. We are going through a cleansing process right now. Not all will look rosy. Remember, the beast will not lie down and die. There's more cleansing to do yet. And there's a restructuring of society coming. And it's necessary. That's in this timeline. There will be a new economic system, one that is a lot more fair. A restructuring of education, that is going to be a big one. And that will actually happen fairly quickly. Because when the truth comes out, imagine there are some people that say, wait a minute, we're going to quit teaching lies. We got to go over of this direction. Governments will be the last one to give up the ghost. Governments as we know it will change. They will generally go away, but there will be a resource management system, which will be a derivative of a government with mostly new people in it, because the people in charge, I mean, the people in lower echelons of government, there's a lot of good people there, but they're caught in a bad system and they know they're doing the wrong thing, but they got to live too. So they keep their job and they keep doing what they do. They would do good things if they were told to do good things. So let's keep them. It's the upper echelon of government that is corrupt to the core and need to go. And people are so fed up with government that once they get more of the truth out, they cannot tolerate anymore. So that will spur the change. The transition to a more human-friendly society will be a painful one for many people. There's going to be new things to learn, new things to accept, a total re-education of what we thought we knew to be true. In the near future, there may be two classes of people, one computerized and totally controlled, or maybe not totally controlled, but somewhat controlled. They have minds of their own that they can interface with, but that's happened because of this thing, you know, that they put in your arm these days. And then there is one natural free person that never got anything inserted in them. When I say computerized person, I mean their bodies. That will actually show up to be as far as, this is going to be a tough one to say, but they can, the computer that runs what you got injected in you can also control your bodily movement, muscle, and the mind. But for the ones that did not do that thing, they're going to be fine. But for the ones that did get that thing in the mind, there's going to be remedies. And these remedies are, I can almost see some of them right now, but there's going to be one that I don't know about, but that's going to be pretty much a cure for it. And it's coming. I could see that coming. We are going through an acceleration of vibration to a higher level of consciousness. And for us who select to be ahead of the curve, we will not have to worry about the challenges of these two classes of people. It sounds like a real separation, but it's not really. Many people of higher consciousness was forced into taking the computerized vaccine, but they are still good people and they're here with us. They will learn to manage this new physiology to their own advantage. And they will have advantages of mind that we do not have as natural beings. They will have actually some new abilities that will come to the surface. So it's not all bad. The ones who will re-educate the ones who will re-educate and rise to higher consciousness, they may have a different way of looking at things. I saw a separation of people. So some may be left behind when it comes to that raising of vibration. Not a separation by conflict, more so of an intellectual one, but much more acceptance than we have right now. And then everybody wants to know, what about disclosure? Yes, there will be a form of disclosure again. It has already been. Disclosure has happened. Government people in different parts of the world have come out and said, yeah, there is UFOs and the alien presence is here, but nobody seems to listen. Governments will hang on as long as they can to keep their power. There will be a little slow dribble. We're going to probably hear something shortly here about, oh, wait a minute, we found life on Mars, but it is a microbe. I also saw 2 waves of UFOs where the sky is full of them. The first one is not our friends. The second one is our friends because they come to clean up the first ones. And integration will be very slow with the extraterrestrials. There are trust issues, and there are fanatics in religion that's gonna keep screaming from the rooftops is that, oh, these strangers from space, they're working with Satan because they look different than us, so they have to be working with Satan and they're bad. Well, some of them are not always good. Some of them that comes in the first wave, they may have their own agenda. So I think though that I'm getting to the point where maybe I should show you some pictures and also show you the time travel device. Maybe I'll just go into the time travel device first so that we can do. What do you think, Neil? Should we do some questions and answers about what we talked about? And then I'll do the demonstration and show you what it looks like.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let
Okay.
me pull them up here. All right.
I'm
So,
all ears.
okay. So Vivek is asking, if there are infinite timelines, how do you know which one to time travel to?
Infinite is an awful big number, but there is hordes of different timelines. And we may have started new timelines in the past and not knowing it because we made major decisions and started a new one and the old one continued. Or we joined in another one where there was so much energy in it that we stayed there and continued. But there is a lot of timelines out there. There is I think there's a Star Trek episode where they talk about the different timelines that Starship Enterprise ended up in, and there were probably 100 Starship Enterprises sitting out there in the sky because they were able to see them at once. So that is a good, actually, explanation of what it could be like. But the timelines are separated in vibration somehow.
All right, we have one more question here from Rosemary. I can follow the argument changing my present by going back to our own decision concerning my life. But what about a collective situation? Like the pandemic with its collateral damage, the Ukraine war and its consequences, energy, economic crisis, etc. Do you then just visualize the kind of world you'd prefer?
That's yes. That is what we are doing in the Mastermind Connection on Sundays. Nori and myself and all the people that join us, we are creating and we're having some really good results with it. And you guys should come and join us. But the war in Eastern Europe right now is an absolutely necessary act in order to be able to ascend into a higher vibration. Because that higher vibration comes about because disclosure of information that was previously hidden from us, which we haven't seen yet, but it is coming. So in order for the good side to win, that war was necessary. Though, if that war never happens, there's another one, and that's World War III. So I'd rather see the war in Ukraine than the other one. And for going back to start something over again, it takes a little bit of mental energy to do that. I think if for somebody that's good at meditation and good at visualizing things, this could be a very applicable possibility. If your mind is going 90 miles an hour and you can't keep a thought from flying all over the place, you need to prepare a little bit first. Start meditating. Start controlling the mind below the brainwave pattern. You should get it down to about 7 or so. Just slow yourself down. Think about nothing. Join us on the mastermind. We're doing things like that. We're doing meditation every time, and we show new people how to do it, and we are practicing ourselves to become better at it.
All right. No more questions. But before you show anything else, do you want to just tell everyone where they can find out about the mastermind one more time?
Yes, the best way to do that is to send us an email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com. themastermindconnection@gmail.com. Hey, there you go. It's right there in the text. So send us an email and request more information, and I will send you more information and a link to come and check it out. That would be a good way to do it. And that was it for questions, huh?
Great. That's it for now.
Okay. Let me talk a little bit about the maker of this thing. He became very well known in the cyber world because of this machine that he did. A lot of people are laughing at this and say, yeah, sure. And then again, there are people that is tried it and missing. So I know there's something to it because of what I have seen as well as what other people have seen. Now, also, I want to say, maybe I should just say that right now, and that is that once you start doing this kind of exercise with a device like this, there will be a day when you no longer need the device because your mind is conditioned to accept this is possible, I can do it, and this is how I do it. Also, I wrote a book, and in the back of that book, I'll show it off real quick. This one here, Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. In there in the back, I have a chapter on how we can do time travel mentally, and we can go and see and do things. Whether you do it physically, that I don't know. That could very well happen because the possibilities are there in the equations for the field. But when I got this time travel device, there's a little learning curve because it came with this manual, time travel. And this is something that Stephen Gibbs put together. And it is, I'm going to show you a little bit out of the manual first. Here is, there's a diagram of how the manual is put together. I'm going to show this. I'm going to show this quote. This is how it is. And the big squiggly half circle there, or 3/4 circle, that's the time coil that goes around your head. Let's see, this one goes around your head. And then we have the magnet over here. It's an electromagnet, extremely powerful electromagnet. And then we have the black box, which has many similarities with a radionic computer. I see some of the, it's only got 2 dials on it, but I used to have a radionic computer that had, I don't know how many dials, 28 or something, I'm not sure, where you can fine tune it to do just about anything. Here in this manual, they talk, or Stephen Gibbs talk about operating instructions, what the different switches are for. And also it can be used, it has a well, I'm going to show you in a second. It has a well where you can put things in it and you can tune it to the vibration of the thing you put in the well. And that could be, let's say, a hair sample from somebody, and you can heal them at a distance, just like a radionic computer would do. And for some reason, he writes something in here that I have never seen anything before of anybody else. He says, never under any circumstances use blood. It can draw demons. In the radionic computer, we used blood sometimes and we had no problems, but he's a very religious man, and I think he, in his own mind, he wants to be careful. So I have no problem with that. And here there is, he talks about this to also be used for astral travel and physical time travel. He talks about how to do it. And here is also a section on how to increase your intelligence and how to amplify the results that you're getting. Now, when I read this manual the first time, I put it down and I said, no. But then again, I figured, oh, well, I know a little bit about the mind. Maybe I should just give it a shot. And I could not really get anything done with this machine until I started manipulating my brainwave pattern. I had to go into meditation. I put this time coil around my head, and that puts out a field that reaches through the brain. And what Stephen said is that it's not the coil that is important, but it helps the brain to activate functions in the brain that opens up for interdimensional contact through the pituitary. So I took his word for that, so I kept using it. And also, here is the electromagnet. And what we do with this electromagnet, we got to make sure it doesn't get close to computers, because it will blind a screen on the computer. If I put it close to the screen right here, you wouldn't be able to see me anymore for hours, or maybe never. I know that for a fact, because I did that once. I got it too close and I lost the computer. They were part of the screen that went away and never came back. It does something to the computer screen. And what we do when we turn it on, we put this against the solar plexus with the time coil on, and we hold it there. Go into meditation, and we visualize what we want to do, where we want to go, and we don't care about time so much, times and dates. That is man-made concept that really doesn't work very well outside in the field, but a time-coded event is important. Like if you see yourself standing around toasting a success of something at a Christmas party, New Year's party, birthday party, see yourself with someone in a meeting, you can find yourself actually being in that meeting, going through with it. So you put it at your solar plexus and hold it there. This magnet is quite heavy. It's a barium magnet. And then we have the black box. It's not, I know this doesn't look like much, but it is not the equipment that is the important part. It is the field. This magnet, the time coil around your head, and the time chip in the box interact to set up a bubble, a bioelectromagnetic bubble around you and the equipment. When that is operational, you are, I don't exactly know how to say this, but you are closer connected to the field than what you otherwise would. And here is the red switch, is the on and off switch. And the other two are for tuning and also use of the well. This is the well that we can put stuff in. If we want to put something in here, let's say a hair sample, or somebody cut off a piece of his nail and send it to you, you technically could help that person heal something. But now we're getting into medical issues that is a little alternative and is somewhat dangerous to talk about. So I think you should be a radionic practitioner to even do this. Now, if you were, let's say if you had something in that well, you turn all the switches on, and here's a rubbing plate. You keep tuning the knobs a little bit, rub it, turn it, rub it, turn it, until you get to a point where your finger sticks. That's where you want to keep the knob. And then you turn the other one until, again, turn it, rub it, turn it, just until you get to the point where your finger sticks. And you will know when that happened. That's where you keep the tuning. That's for healing purposes. And also, when you, let's say you want to go to a specific time and occasion or place, you visualize it in your mind what it's like. Turn all the knobs on, and you tune it to that thing that is in your mind. You tune it until your finger sticks. Here we go. It's on the other side. Here we go. Keep turning, turning and rub it until your finger sticks. Now you have a contact. And then you put it down, you keep that thing in your mind, put the time coil on, you put the magnet against your solar plexus and go into meditation. That is how I did it. So it's fairly simple, but it's not easy. You gotta kind of learn how the rubbing works. And for those of you out there that do dowsing, I don't know, I have a makeshift pendulum here that, because I lost my pendulum, and so I picked something else, and I don't think it works. But anyway, for those of you that do dowsing, you will have an easier time with this, because your mind and your finger and your body is attuned better to the fact that I expect this to happen, so it will. I'm going to go up really close here so you can see what this thing looked like. Let me do that this way, maybe. This is what the time travel device looked like up close. And that's all that it is to this equipment. It's really fairly simple. And I know we're going to have questions about this. Okay, I might answer one right now because it ties in. What are the two other switches? One of them is for the well, to turn the well on, and the other one is for the tuning of the rubbering plate. So you got to turn them on to maybe, if you're not using the well, you don't need to turn that on, or they could be left on all the time. I don't know if it actually matters, but the red one is the off and on switch. That one's got to be on. And let's see. Well, I got two pictures that I want to show you. And those pictures need to be talked a little bit about. So let me, what do you think, Neil? Should I share screen for that?
Yeah, Aage, go for it.
Okay. I'm going to extend this page a little bit. And here we go. Sure. Okay. I'm sharing sound and video. Can you hear me? Can you
Yeah,
hear?
we can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good deal. All right. This is at the website of broadcastteamalpha.com. And this is the website that Nori and I have for the radio and the podcast. And we got well over 5,000 unbelievable pictures in there, and all kinds of goofy stuff. And if you all can see this, yeah, here's a goofy one. This only in Russia. There's a guy going in a taxi cab and he's got his pet bear with him sticking his head out the back window. Well, that's kind of goofy, but then we have giants and we have all kinds of strange stuff that you should go and have a look at. But here are two pictures that they look alike somewhat, but they're not.
Are you able to make the pictures bigger?
Say again?
Are you able to enlarge them? All right, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of, there we go, here we go. This picture right here, that was the first one. And what I did, I sat down at the computer and I went to a website for a newspaper in Europe. And I was watching through, they had a site on there where we can watch through different web cameras for different parts of town. And I was observing one of the web cameras for one specific part of town. This is actually my hometown back in Norway. And I took a screenshot. And you see here the date stamp on top, Saturday, October 18, in the year 2008. The time was 6:36 and 22 seconds. You can see here, it's been raining, so the road is wet. You got a little bit of leaves on the tree here. Can you see the cursor and everything? Neil?
Yeah, we see the cursor.
Okay, good. Yeah, you can see there's leaves on the tree here. There's leaves on a tree over here. There's yellow. This is in the fall, you know, so it's leaves on the tree over here. And there's some activity over at the gas station here. That's the first. And I wrote some text here that can be seen. And then the other picture. The road is dry. There's no leaves on the tree down here. There's no leaves on that tree, and there's no yellow leaves on this tree. And the van that was sitting in the parking lot here at the gas station is gone. It's different. The way I ended up taking the second picture is that I sat down quite a while later at the computer, went to the same website, watched through the same video camera in Europe. And I went into meditation. I tried to position myself back at the exact same time I took the first picture. I visualized that first picture. And I took another screenshot. And I remember it got kind of fuzzy on me, and there were things happening there. I took another screenshot because I wanted that picture, second one, to be at the same time. Well, I got close. Here it says 08/35/17. Same day, same year. So I missed it by 1 minute and 5 seconds compared to the last one that you saw. In 1 minute and 5 seconds, there is no leaves on the tree. Over here, there is no leaves on that tree. The road is dry. See the difference? There is more green grass here. The road is wet. There are leaves on the tree. No leaves on the tree. Road is dry. In 1 minute and 5 seconds. What happened? In 1 minute and 5 seconds is how I missed it. But that should not create these. I mean, the trees don't lose all their leaves in 1 minute and 5 seconds. And wet road contrary to dry road in minute and 5 seconds. What happened here is that I went back in time, but I ended up in a different timeline, because in 1 minute and 5 seconds should not create all those differences. But in another timeline, there could be differences like that. This tree has now leaves on it. There's no leaves, dry roads. I missed it by 1 minute and 5 seconds. And I ended up in a different timeline. And I think the electronics are probably something to do with that, because I wasn't there. I was about 6,800 miles away, going through the internet, connecting to that place. Yeah, and then there's going to be some people that say, you faked it. Well, first of all, I didn't. For the second, I've been trying to get somebody to verify that there is no dislocation in the pixels. And as soon as I tell them, I talk to some very credible people, but as soon as I tell them that, oh, it has to do with time travel, they want nothing to do with it. And I can see scientists don't want to get associated with something like this. But I think I found one here about a few days ago. I think I found one. He is a very high-profile scientist that is stepping out of the box in many different areas. And he says, yeah, I'll look at it and I'll see what I can find. What I want somebody to do is not to verify that the pictures are accurate. I could care less about them looking at the picture. The only thing I want them to do is to verify that there's no dislocation in the pixels around the timestamp. Because if this picture were to be faked, it had to be done around the timestamp, because that is what dates the picture. I wanted to look at that. Because otherwise, yeah, if it wasn't for that, sure, the picture could be from any time. But here it is locked in time. That is what I want him to do. And I'm going to have that shortly. He said he was going to look at it and see what he could find. But for right now, this is my statement of how it was taken. They are two totally different pictures. Just 1 minute and 5 seconds apart. I think we all can see that. So now it goes back to the fact that what should we believe? Should we believe the government saying there ain't no such thing as time travel, or should we believe the scientists that are coming out saying, yes, it's possible? As well as what I'm saying, it's possible. And this is what I call evidence. It is evidence to me because I know what I did. And soon I will have that testimony that there is no dislocation of pixels around the timestamp. So maybe that's for another day. Okay, well, let's see. We have, all right, I will get rid of this page now. Now there's a lot of writing here. You really should go to broadcastteamalpha.com. Go into the picture gallery. It's right up here. And go to page 15 and read what it says here. This explains more the process of what I did. And that's it.